Welcome to another edition of the HobbitCast. This is our ketogenic diet fireside chat, hosted by yours truly, Ben McDonald. And I've got my beautiful co-host, as always, Karen, with us. Hi, Karen. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Ben?
All is well over here. I have recovered from a late night of fireworks with young children, and I'm ready to get back to a normal schedule.
Sounds good.
Now, you're up in Canada, so you guys have a fireworks party, but it's a few days early, right?
It is. We celebrate Confederation Day on the 1st of July.
Oh, my goodness.
We were out on the 1st, and it poured, and then we were out again on the 2nd.
Nice. Fantastic.
We had two celebrations.
Oh, so they canceled the fireworks and moved on to the next thing.
They didn't. We stayed there in a torrential downpour.
Oh, fantastic. That sounds like a hoot.
Yes, we had soggy fireworks and non-soggy fireworks.
Well, today's HobbitCast is going to be a discussion about trading discipline for results, Karen. What we really want to talk about today is, why is ketogenic such a difficult technical diet? There's tracking macros and food diaries that you have to go through. Why is that what we have to do? Why is that our focus? Certainly, why are there people out there that advocate a different approach to the ketogenic diet, and what we think our concerns are about that? I also want to talk a little bit about the away from home kit. Kind of what sort of stuff do you have in your purse that you want to have just to be prepared? And in light of our 4th of July and what'd you say, Confederation Day?
Confederation Day.
Nice.
That's what happens when you have a nice start to your country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't play that way down here. So in light of that holiday, I'm sure many folks were challenged to make some good choices, and perhaps some folks made some bad choices. So we want to talk a little bit about what that means, maybe some strategies for avoiding that. And, all summer long, there's going to be barbecues and parties. What can you do to stay on target? And everybody's favorite topic, we're going to touch on alcohol a little bit, just to give our 2 cents, because everybody wants to know about getting their drink on.
Yes, they do. Every Friday they want to know.
Yeah, they do. Every Friday. So,
away from alcohol, back to discipline.
Right. Let's focus on the productive part of the conversation, which is discipline.
Discipline.
So, Karen, I think one of the biggest problems for keto newbies is they show up on the board and they go, "Hey, I heard all about this great way of losing weight. Everybody says it works and it's easy. How do I get started?" So, of course, we have talked about macros and how important it is to focus on getting your biometric data, figuring out your needs for protein and fat.
Yeah,
you get that dialed in. But then part 2 of that is actually living that, making those numbers become a part of your daily routine.
That's right.
Why is that so important?
Well, I don't like to think of it as difficult, but it's a little fussy. And there's a reason for that. You do have to track what you're ingesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a little tricky at first. You have to weigh everything, you have to measure everything, you have to log everything.
Yeah.
But you're trading that for results. Now, particularly when you begin your ketogenic journey, you need to make sure that your carbohydrates are on point. They have to be under 20 grams.
Yes.
And once you're able to do that for, the first 5 days and you get into ketosis, that's when it starts to get easy. That's what the results that we're talking about. You lose weight and you do it without the fatigue and the hunger that you would get from a high carb, low fat diet.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to circle back around to the results in just a minute. I want to touch on what does it mean to track your macros? What does that look like for a person who's just getting started with keto?
Well, there are two things that are involved. The first thing you have to do is you get a food scale.
Yes.
I use my food scale all the time. I used it
Mhm.
tonight when I was making my fathead pizza. But
And you're talking about the $9 food scale.
oh
It's just a
yeah,
little digital scale. It's got a little
mine's a
button on it
Starfrit.
that says
Yeah,
0, and that's pretty much it.
yeah. So I
Super easy.
just with it, there was 6 ounces of cheese in this crust, so I measured
Mhm.
out the 6 ounces with things that can be a little heavy on the carb side, like
Sure.
nuts.
Mhm.
Or certain types of vegetables, you have to weigh them because without having that under 20 grams of carbohydrates, you're not going to get all the results.
That's
You're not
right.
going to get that
Okay,
massive
so
weight loss.
here, here I am. I've got my little food scale and all my little tablespoon and 1 cup measurements. So I've done all my measurements. What do I do with that data?
Well, with me, I use an online diary, MyFitnessPal. There are
Mhm.
other ones out there that I've seen other members use. And it's just as simple as just typing in what food you ate and then finding a reliable source of that food. With MyFitnessPal, I look for one that has a little green check beside it, or I look for the exact brand that I used, and I make sure that the nutritional information that is entered into their database is the same that's on the back of the packet.
And that
But
is a problem in MFP
Mhm.
because occasionally that's a crowdsourced database, which means it has almost everything you've ever heard of in there. But people
Sometimes they're wrong.
sometimes are wrong and they put in bad
Sometimes they're
data.
wrong. There's typos. Yeah.
Yeah. So the green checks are definitely a piece, and that's something that's really specific to MFP because of the crowdsourcing nature
Yeah.
of the database. When you think about programs like Lose It and some of the other ones, they're using like the USDA database and other nutritional sources that are not crowdsourced.
Yeah, I've used caloriecounter.org before, and that's a government run one as well. So.
There you go. Cool.
But yeah, the little green check means that they've checked the source, that it's been approved. And I think with MyFitnessPal, they also have an option for some foods that you can just scan your food with your phone, and it'll pop up for you if it's something that's packaged.
Very well.
Mm-hmm.
So let's circle back around to results. We're
Yeah.
talking about something that sounds really annoying, Karen. We're speaking of putting all of our food through some sort of weight or measurement process before we put it in our mouth.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little fussy to begin with when you start, but eventually, it doesn't. It only takes me a few minutes a day. Once you've been doing this for a month or two, you're going to be eating a lot of the same foods.
Right.
So unless you're putting in a new recipe, it's often just going to be, yeah, I ate that breakfast again, and then
Mm-hmm.
you just push one button and it's back in there.
Yes.
So it's just setting yourself up to succeed. If you're going to pursue lazy keto, you're not going to weigh and you're not going to measure because, that's not your style. You might not fail, but you're planning to stall.
Yeah.
It does eventually catch up with you.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about on this is the whole reason we're here is because the ketogenic diet has the ability to allow you to manipulate your hormones.
Yep.
It allows you to manipulate the hormones that control the nutrient flow into your muscles. It allows you to manipulate the hormones that control the fat flow out of your fat tissue.
Yeah.
It also allows you to manipulate the hormones that control your hunger and
Mm-hmm.
your behaviors to some extent. All those benefits that we're excited about, the ability to run at a calorie deficit while still being able to mobilize energy and not feel that fatigue, that ability to skip breakfast without being hungry, that ability to have those feelings of energy all day long and not having that 4 p.m. crash and not needing to take naps because your body is able to successfully manage that blood sugar and keep it at a steady rate all day long. So you don't have those highs and lows throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
Those things come at a price, and that price that you have to pay is this discipline. If you want those things for yourself, if you want what is the very easy road of being on a ketogenic diet for weight loss, it really is as simple as showing the discipline to have properly calculated macros and then sticking to those constraints through proper weighs and measures. If you compromise the accuracy of those weighs and measures by doing lazy keto, which is, well, that's about a cup of butter or, whatever it is, then you find yourself creeping up in calories. And although you may still be ketogenic, you aren't necessarily going to lose the weight. So you're feeling fine, you're feeling great, but you're not losing the weight. And let's be honest, that's why most of us are here, is because we want that weight loss. We want the easy ride to smaller pants.
Yeah. So it really is a small price. That discipline, it just requires just a little bit of effort, and then you get all of these results.
Now, Karen, you're really new in keto, so yep. I think for you keep using a very dainty word when it comes to describing how onerous this process of measurement is. I think it's very annoying. I can't stand measuring. Oh, it drives me crazy. Every time I have to bust out that scale and those scoops, it's very, very frustrating for me because it's a reminder of my bad behavior over the past many years that got me into this state that are making me now have to work it off.
Yeah.
It makes me focus on food, and it makes me focus on the food that's going into my mouth in a negative way.
Okay.
But that's gotten better with time. But when I first started, that was absolutely how I feel. I was very troubled by this process. And it was really one of the things that made me uncomfortable about this. You're a little bit younger than I am, but you may remember the Richard Simmons Deal-A-Meal stuff. Do you remember those Deal-A-Meal cards?
I'm familiar with Richard.
Yeah. He had the little dancing with the oldies videos.
Fun. Yeah.
Which were an exciting way to just try and get people to move. Just move for 20 minutes, please. Just dance. Just get up and dance with me like an idiot in the living room.
He's got ones where if you can't stand up, you can sit in your chair and dance.
Yeah, sit in a
fabulous.
Chair. So
but the little cards, I remember the little cards.
That's right.
I remember my friend's mother had those little cards.
Richard had it all figured out. He figured out how to get people to move, but then he figured out how to make it really easy for people to do weighs and measures. Rather than handing out macros and all this crazy stuff, he would just have these cards that were like, all right, 1 cup of whatever is this.
Yeah.
And you can have, 3 units of protein a day. And those are your 3 protein cards. And here's your 2 sugar carbs. And, and it was a way of trying to soften the blow for all these weighs and measures. What we're doing here is we're using a metabolic gimmick. Ketogenics is not something that your body will just fall into when left to its own devices. We have to be very precise in our carbohydrate intake. Otherwise, you cannot get there.
Yeah.
It's worth it. That's what I'm here to say. Trust me, if you can stick with this annoying measurement and all the goofy logging on your little phone while you're staying in your kitchen, on the far side of this, and it really is about 2 or 3 weeks, it becomes a habit, and it becomes something that you're focused on your nutrition as part of your health and wellness. It's not just a question of, oh, I'm hungry, let's eat. You start to almost get this grandiose perspective on you as a human creature, and this awareness of I'm taking in fuel into my body, and I'm controlling and being very deliberate in that process with the hope of being able to have this nice, easy change in my state of health. It's worth it, but you have to have some patience.
think you have to be a particular personality type to enjoy that sort of thing, but that's
I
probably
wasn't pointing fingers at you when you were saying, "Oh, it's so no big deal."
it's a little fussy.
It's just a little fussy. No, no, no. No, for some of us, this is a deal breaker.
I think if you're the type of person that did a lot of baking before,
Oh, that's a good
this
point.
isn't such a big deal because baking is very much it's chemistry. There's
Mhm, mhm.
precision. It's much the same thing. If you don't weigh and measure things and follow the directions when you're baking, you're going to end up with, just flat cakes. So
Yes.
keto's like that. If you don't want to end up flat, then you're going to have to do a little weighing and measuring.
Yep. All right. Moving on to the third little bullet here that I wanted to talk about. And this is
Yes.
maybe a little bit more esoteric a thought, but I think it's really important when you're undertaking something so dramatic and drastic in your life as a complete reboot of your metabolism through your nutritional behaviors. We're talking about shopping differently, cooking differently, eating differently. There's a lot of components to that, some of which are very much mental and have nothing to do with the food that you're eating and everything to do with your emotional state and your own focus.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I'm here to do is to hopefully encourage some of you who have an unhealthy relationship with food. And some of you really do. And I think that's okay. Some people don't. They've just made bad choices many, many, many times.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who feels like maybe you need a little help and especially when you're thinking about having some tools to deal with the emotional trauma and baggage that comes along with wandering around in the kitchen trying to figure out how to solve problems with food, there's some things that you can do that will really make a big difference. Obviously, there's a whole branch of therapy that I'd really suggest for anyone who thinks they're on the edge for this, and that is a cognitive based therapy. The CBT is a very specific kind of therapy, and that's not lie on the couch, tell me about your mother therapy. This is like work training. You go there and they're gonna equip you with very specific tools for managing your emotional and physical behaviors. They're gonna help you kind of be an external coach to make good choices. But then when you find yourself at 10 o'clock at night pacing in front of the refrigerator trying to figure out what little snacky poo we're gonna have, you have the right tools in your bag to address this problem without necessarily getting too far into the weeds. We don't talk about that a lot in the Facebook group. I wish we talked about it more because I think it affects a lot more people than they would maybe admit to themselves.
Yeah.
And therapy, therapy's got a little stigma, especially for our generation and a little bit older. There's a lot of stigma attached to that. I think folks that are younger than us, Karen, I don't know that there's a stigma for that just because so many people are in therapy now.
No. I mean, I myself about 10 years ago did a year of CBT, and it was for a different matter for me. I had an intense fear of driving, and I couldn't do it. And I've taken a lot of the principles that I've learned from CBT, and I apply them to what I'm doing now with how I've changed how I eat and how I exercise. So I use that. I often find myself, there's a little trick where instead of just, if I think I want to eat, I'm thinking about food, thinking, and I'm not hungry and it's not my time to eat because it's like I'm about to go to bed in 10 minutes. One of the things that I learned from CBT is to actually write it down saying, I want to eat. And that actually, it takes it from, a more subconscious part of my mind into the forefront where I can deal with it more rationally.
Yeah, that's that transition from that lizard brain, that emotional response into the rational brain where you're making those higher cognitive decisions based on
I'm in control.
The things that you want, right? The control piece rather than reacting to the stuff that's in front of you, making those bigger choices. I wish more people were taking advantage of the tools and understanding that we have in these modern times for this approach. The other thing I want to throw out is for those of you that maybe aren't ready to take that step, but certainly if you're obese, you've made some bad choices. There's a couple of things that you can do that to really change your relationship with food. Number one, stop eating in front of the TV. Hear me clearly. Stop eating in front of the TV. This mindless eating where you're distracted by things other than the process of eating, it's so damaging to the way that your body is wired. You know, the actual act of chewing a food actually changes your hormonal state. It's the chewing that your mouth going up and down actually triggers a release of certain hormones that affect your body. If you just that one of the interesting things, I read a study a long time ago. I don't have the details super clear on this, but there was a cool study where they were trying to figure out why people would take these protein shakes but not see the protein absorption that they wanted to get. Well, what they started having these folks do was actually, as they were drinking the shakes, they would start to chew them. So you would just kind of put the milkshake in your mouth and chew on it a little bit. And they saw like a 40% improvement in the protein uptake, because when you're eating protein, but you're not chewing it, those hormones you're not setting your body up for the things that it was kind of naturally wired to do. In the same way, when you're sitting in front of the TV, watching your favorite rerun of something, and you're just shoveling food into your face, you're disconnecting that higher order brain from the more physical response of intaking those nutrients. It will change your life. It seems like such a dumb thing, but I'm telling you, if you just sit down at your kitchen table, don't listen to radio, don't turn on the TV, enjoy the food that you're eating. You can eat fast like you're in a boot camp if you want to and chow down and get on with life. You can eat it slowly and deliberately and chew and savor. Even, talking with your family is something that can really slow you down and make you focus on what you're doing. It helps. It helps so much. And it's one of the biggest rookie mistakes that I see people making. When I'm talking with folks who are really stalled out for no good reason, I'll often ask, where do you take your meals? And a lot of times they're like, I sit on the couch watching TV. It's like, stop it. And you'd be surprised how much that can really just change things. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Very interesting.
If you have more questions about CBT or mindful eating, mindfulness is an entire approach to philosophy and a way of thinking. Ask in the board. There's a lot of people that know a lot about it. And I encourage you to do some research because it's out there, and the tools to change your approach are available. All you have to do is use them. Karen, you want to add anything on that before we move on to our next topic?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Back to the away from home kit.
All right. So we just came off of our hot and sweaty summer holiday weekend. And we had a lot of people on the board that found themselves in a situation where they were hot and sweaty.
Yep.
They were at a picnic where they were ill prepared. And they were finding themselves needing things that perhaps they weren't prepared for. So I thought what we could do is just kind of talk about what's in your purse, what's in my little man bag that I carry around.
It's European.
That's right. It's a satchel, damn it. And just kind of why we've come up with those things and what's the purpose for that. I think it'd be interesting for folks to hear about that. So what do you got going on in that big bag of yours, lady?
I am a thief. I fully admit I steal mixed salt.
Nice.
Every so often, my son wants a Happy Meal, and he can have one because he's 8 and growing, and he can still lose, a pound a week.
Sure.
He needs to while still having a weekly Happy Meal. But when I go in, I ransack their salt display, their
Nice.
condiments, and grab all the salt and I throw it in my wallet. So even if I
Okay.
don't have my purse with me, the salt is always with me. Um, Now my husband, he likes a certain type of sweetener.
Mm-hmm.
So I find this stuff everywhere. It's in our kitchen. It's in his wallet. It's in his pants pockets. It's in his laptop case. It's in at his office, in their kitchen. It's in his cubicle. They're everywhere.
Nice.
That way, he's never stuck in a situation. Particularly, we do have some members in our Facebook group that are sensitive to certain sweeteners, and they will get, either a blood glucose spike or an insulin spike from certain types of sweeteners. So they should keep the ones that don't affect them on them at all times. I know we do have some members who they want that coffee, but they cannot stomach it. They find it unpalatable without a sweetener. So keep
Sure.
that with you. I often have nuts. My son is a vegetarian. So I have nuts with me when we travel. I have cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I keep pepperoni with me if I've got my little cooler bag.
Yep.
So I always come with pickles, all kinds of things, and water. But the salt and the water, as long as you have that and you're going to be going home or going someplace where you can eat soon, that will take you through, especially in the summer. We keep on having people talking about, not feeling well, and it clearly is a hydration issue.
That's right. Because when you're outside and you're sweating,
Yes.
you're losing salt.
Yep.
And we lose salt faster than normal people, which means we've got to pound it.
my husband's waving a carton of eggs. I think he's talking about how I usually have hard-boiled eggs. There's usually a whole bunch of hard-boiled eggs in the fridge, and if we're going somewhere, there's eggs. Either that or he's asking me to make him an omelet. I'm not sure.
Nice.
But yeah, the eggs are portable. If you've got the little cooler bag, bring that with you.
Yes. In my own bag, you're going to see pretty much the same kind of thing. I've got the same little salt packets that I've swiped from various fast food joints. I do have a little bottle of sucralose, which is my sweetener of choice. When you go up on Amazon, they had a big bottle of sweetener and it came with a little travel bottle, because the problem with sucralose and stevia is it's hyper potent. So you need like a micro eyedropper to dispense it. And they have this cute little, half a dram version, a little bottle with a tiny little eyedropper that's just right for adding sweetener to things. So I've got that in there. And then I also keep magnesium pills, which I'm a big magnesium fan. I find that that's important for my electrolyte balance. So I try and keep those around. I also keep a sleeve of Noon tabs, which are NUUN. They're it's a commercial brand name. It's basically just a fizzy Kool-Aid tab that has salt, potassium, magnesium, and chloride in it. So you're getting all your big 4 ionic electrolytes all in one thing, and it makes the like just plain water fizzy, which is sometimes nice to. I don't know about you, Karen. Do you find yourself like with a sour stomach sometimes?
Sometimes I do. So if I'm out, I'll have some fizzy water, and that helps with that.
See, that's my solution too, is the fizzy water. But so I've got, when I'm at home, I have my Soda Stream and I have my various little seltzers that I've, and Diet Cokes and all that good stuff that are all around. But if you're out and about and you start to feel that, it's like, well, what are you going to do? Well, all I need is a water source and a cup. Yeah. And with these little Noon tabs, they carbonate them. There's also a magnesium product called Calm, which is a carbonating, it's almost like an Alka-Seltzer, but it's just magnesium. Yeah. So it does the same kind of thing where it just gives you a little bubble water and can help settle your stomach. Yeah. Those are the big things that I keep in my emergency pack. I'm not one to carry snacks around so much because I've been ketogenic for a while,
Hmm.
and I'm very comfortable fasting when I find myself in a bummer situation. If I'm out and about and I can't get food, I just don't eat, and it doesn't bother me because I'm not really that hungry most of the time.
I'm pretty good with that too now myself. It's just for me for the weekend, with my husband also eating a ketogenic diet. He doesn't want to be keeping pepperoni slices in his pocket. So the purse
No,
is where we keep stuff.
sure, absolutely.
That's where it goes.
My wife is incapable of fasting. It just does not work well for her. She has lots of snacks. So rather than talk about my bag, we're going to talk about her bag. So in her bag, you will find the following things: an Epic bar, which is basically a beef jerky bar
Okay.
that has it's bacon and buffalo jerky. It's fantastic. It's very expensive. They're almost $3 a piece. So that's for emergency use only, but
Yeah.
it's a shelf stable, plastic wrapped kind of thing. You also find a Rev Glow bar, which is a very, very low carb kind of energy bar, similar to, like your Quest bars and stuff like that. But it doesn't have all the junk in it that some of those have. I want to get one of those Adapt Your Life bars, but because those are really good and have no weird stuff in them either. But I haven't found those locally, and you have to order them like in a 24 pack or something. I haven't tried those yet. And then one of the neat thing that she's got is it's basically an almond butter packet. It's 1 ounce of almond butter, and it has some whey powder, a chocolate whey powder to be specific, mixed into it. So it's basically a tablespoon and a half of almond butter in a little, like a ketchup packet looking thing. So she can bust that out and just, have a shot of peanut butter is basically what it is. And they have a couple different flavors that you can find these on Amazon and other places. But, they had a snickerdoodle and a chocolate and different little flavors. So we've got some of those in her purse as well, because she sometimes finds the beef jerky is it's not a beef jerky day.
Yeah, I have a little, I got it from, I think, the low carb grocer. You can order online in Canada, and it's a little PB2 packet. So I've got that in my little kit just in case there's an emergency. I've got that powder that I could mix with water if I absolutely had to.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a great solution for a lot of things. And you can add that to things that make it delicious too, right?
Yeah, I haven't tried it. I have this little sample size, but it's there just in case. Mark's still, my husband, he still likes he has the Atkins bars, the ones that taste like dirt.
Yes.
He has those. He wants to get the ones with maltitol, but I won't let him because I have to live with him and share a bed with him.
Ooh.
So
what Karen's talking about is the Atkins Corporation sells a variety of bars. One of the lines is the Atkins Indulgence Bar.
Yes.
Ingredient number 1 is maltitol. Ingredient number 2 is maltitol syrup.
Yes, it is.
And
he likes those because they taste yummy and like sugar, but
they taste like a Snickers bar.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about it.
He can manage to eat those and still stay in ketosis. I can't. But I would much prefer him to have the ones that don't have that one ingredient. And just once again, I have to live with the man, and so he gets the ones that are just peanut butter, and I don't even know what they're sweetened with. They taste like a bar of soap.
They really do. One of the things that you mentioned that I want to put a fine point on, because I think a lot of people don't have these, especially if you don't have kids, the refrigerated soft side lunchbox.
Yep.
For like $12, they sell these soft side. It's literally the size of a lunchbox, but inside of it is an ice pack that is like the perfect maximum size that they could squeeze into the lid. Yep. And in that lunchbox, you can stick whatever you want. You can put bacon, cheese, boiled eggs. Yep. I mean, anything that you want just goes right in there. And those lunch boxes, they'll keep it Like I would have no trouble eating dairy that had been in there for 5-6 hours on a summer day. Like it stays cold for a long time. The ones we have.
Yeah, they do. They do.
So that's an interesting piece of kit. If you're kind of somewhere between snack and full on meal, for just $10 or whatever, you can pick up one of those lunch boxes. We have them because we have kids, and nobody does hard metal superhero lunch boxes anymore. They all have these super cool soft side lunch boxes.
Yeah,
So check
great ones. They can have they'll have Thor on them, and
well, clearly.
And everything is better with Chris Hemsworth on it.
Yeah, baby. Oh, he's dreamy. So I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about for the away from home kit right now.
Yeah.
I do want to, in a future episode, dig a little deeper into some strategies for like road trip food and stuff like that. I think that would be interesting to talk about, because it's tricky, because nobody wants to eat a bunless Burger King patty. That's just not good. And sometimes that's all you got. If you did not make preparation, your choices are starve or take the bun off the Burger King burger.
Yeah. No.
I found myself in that situation on a road trip recently, and I chose to abstain.
After 2 days of that, fasting looks real good.
Oh yeah. We went ahead and put a dent in the calorie deficit on that day. All right. Moving right along to cheat days.
Cheat days, everybody. Yeah, this is we have the Friday post, which is alcohol, and then we have the Monday post, the
Monday confessionals.
Repent at leisure post. Yeah, the cheat days. Yeah, the oh no, it happened.
So, Karen, I have a solution for these cheat days.
Yeah.
It's a recipe. You may have seen this. It's called an oopsie brownie. Have you ever had one of these?
I will pretty much eat anything with chocolate in it, but I've never made an oopsie anything. But if it has chocolate, I am game.
Okay, well, here's the thing about an oopsie brownie.
Okay.
It's got chocolate in it.
Okay.
And after you eat it,
sold.
You say, oopsie, I probably shouldn't have eaten that.
Oh, so we're talking about like a real brownie.
A real brownie.
Okay, not my chia brownies.
No. We're not talking about those kind of brownies. We're talking about.
Oh, see, I thought you were talking about like
I did it again.
An oopsie roll brownie.
No. See, a little joke there, a little humor. So many an oopsie brownie has been had by many a member, and many a podcast host, for that matter.
Oopsie brownie.
Oopsie.
Yeah. It happens. Sometimes it happens almost intentionally, and sometimes it happens unintentionally. I was out on vacation with my family, and we ordered wings, and we asked all the right questions about them. And then when it came back, and we ate a few of them, and I looked down and realized, I'm pretty sure this sauce has cornstarch in it.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it wasn't a big deal. I ate 3 before I realized, no, this is no good. And Mark finished them once again. He can eat
like a Viking.
Yeah, he can eat 50 net carbs, and he's good. But it happens.
One of my more interesting stories on that is Debbie, one of the admins, famously had some meatballs, and Debbie is a diabetic. So those meatballs had way more bread than meat in them. And she wasn't even really thinking about it, because when she makes meatballs,
they're meat. There are balls of meat.
That's right. It is a ball of meat, perhaps with some almond flour in there.
Yeah.
So, she's not even thinking about it. She scarfs down 6 meatballs, and oh boy, crisis ensues. And it was, a surprise. So
Red
certainly
ball.
Unintentional cheat day when that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the Friday night blowout.
The other oopsie brownies.
Oopsie brownies.
Those brownies were really good, and I couldn't resist brownies.
Oopsie ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah, there is no ice cream of any variety in my house. That
No.
is a slippery slope, my friend.
It is an unacceptable thing to have in my house as well, because they will be
And
gone
will
as
ruin.
fast as you can say oopsie. So, what happens when you indulge from a scientific perspective, Karen?
You feel terrible.
That's right.
Scientifically, I think the word is you feel like crap.
That's right. So here's what happens. If you get a nice little dose of carbohydrates, your body freaks out a little bit because it's so excited to get sugar. It dumps a bunch of insulin. And then more importantly, that insulin is going to drive all these sugars into your muscles, and which is awesome because it refills the glycogen stores, which are traditionally very low in a ketogenic dieter. Now, that's good if you're a power lifter or a Olympic sprinter, but that is not good if you are an obese dieter. So
I think I'm probably closer to that than the Olympic sprinter.
That's right. Part of that process is going to cause a lot of wacky hydration yo-yos. You're going to swell up. You're going to dump water. You're going to retain water. Your body just gets crazy.
Yep.
That causes a lot of weird stuff. The most important thing that I just want to touch on is if you accidentally have a brownie fall in your mouth, what you want to do.
I hate it when that happens.
I was just in the kitchen and thing jumped right out.
It happened for like 13 years, just every day.
So what you can do is make sure before you go to bed that night, make sure you take like a quarter teaspoon or a half teaspoon of salt. You just, have a nice big glass of water, because what's going to happen is your hydration is going to yo-yo all night long. You're going to get Charlie horses in the middle of the night. It happens to a lot of people, and it's just a little Charlie horse insurance there if that happens. So that's kind of the mechanical piece of things, but let's talk about the emotional piece of this. So you wake up the next morning, you feel guilty. You've done a bad thing. You've been knocked out of ketosis. You're basically hungover, right? You feel bad. You're bloated. You gained 8 pounds in 12 hours, which is what happens, by the way. Where do you think all that water goes? It doesn't leave your body. It stays. So you'd be surprised how 200 calories of brownie can all of a sudden become 8 pounds. Don't be shocked when you get on the scale the next morning and something really bad has happened, but it's just water. So don't freak out.
You just have to keep in mind that it was a one-day indulgence. You have to forgive yourself. Those 8 pounds of water will go quickly. It's not like you've undone all your progress.
That's right.
You've been doing all these things. You've been tracking. You've had discipline. You've been doing your mindful eating, and you had that one moment. Learn from it.
Yes.
Just learn. Try to be mindful of your successes, but also be mindful of your failures. Try to realize what got you to that point, so the next time you'll be better prepared. You just have to forgive yourself. You kind of have to look at it from a detached perspective. Don't put unnecessary emotions into what was something that's just a momentary lapse in judgment.
That's right.
So you forgive yourself, you move on, you start following your keto plan immediately. Don't let that one day spiral into a whole week.
And that's, I think, one of the keys to surviving a cheat day. Do not make a cheat meal turn into a cheat weekend. That's when the bad stuff happens, because if you have a cheat meal where there was a plate of brownies that disappeared like Houdini snatched them, that's one thing. You go on a weekend long bender where you go to the bakery section at the grocery store and come home with $50 worth of stuff.
You can't get into that thinking like, I've been so good, I've been so disciplined, I've earned this. Keto's not one of those 80-20 diets. You can't keep your carbs like points and then just blow them all on an indulgence because you've been so good. It doesn't work that way.
No, it really doesn't. And it punishes you in a lot of ways for big departures like that. I mean, you kind of reset the clock on a lot of things. Certainly, your weight loss is going to stop. Your hunger is going to come back with crazy vengeance like you are not accustomed to.
Yep.
And it's going to make you want to have a cheat weekend instead of a cheat meal. That's something you have to be kind of prepared for, because you have to fight through that and get back on the horse. And
that's where your mental focus comes in again.
The ones that break my heart are the Monday morning confessionals, where it's Friday night, I was out with the girls, I had a drink, then the potato skins got here.
Then I had a cupcake.
And then I had a cupcake. And then in the morning, I had a bowl of cereal. And then I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And you just kind of, it's this ongoing thing of they couldn't stop the train. It just kept getting going. They couldn't break that cycle until Monday morning when they got back. And, I'm back at work on Monday. I'm back being good. I've got my boiled egg and my tuna salad. It's like, well, okay, but the next few days are going to be tough.
Yeah, I can remember the chocolate bar experiment where I think this is the beginning of my keto journey, and somebody, we'll call him Smen, said that maltitol converted to over 50% glucose when you ate it. And I didn't believe him.
That man is a known liar. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, Smen is terrible. And Smen is mean, and so that I couldn't have this thing that I'd brought home from the drugstore. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to try it and see what happens. And sure enough, it didn't. I didn't notice any spike in my blood glucose. I measured a couple hours later, and it was fine.
Sure.
But the next morning, I was so hungry. I hadn't wanted breakfast for about 3-4 weeks at that point. I had just kind of fallen into IF, intermittent fasting, without knowing what it was.
Yeah.
And then that morning, I wanted to eat all the food. All the food. I'm really glad that I had, prepared my kitchen and packed up a lot of the things and given them to the food bank, because I probably would have eaten pancake mix out of the box at that point.
Wow.
just because, I had that one thing.
It is strange how when pure sugar gets into you, a switch flips. Lizard brain level stuff, man. It's not about being a Viking or being the most rational dieter in the world. This is visceral. It is not something that you are making decisions about.
Yeah, it wasn't like I want a pancake. It was like, pancakes now. Everyone get out of my way.
So that's a great story to tell, because that lets me really hit this one on the nose, which is the best cheat day is no cheat day, because it's punishing. It's punishing mentally. It's hard on you physically. You've got, the emotional toil, and most importantly, you're forfeiting the results that you've worked so hard for from a quality of life perspective. It's not going to make you gain a whole bunch of weight. You can't gain 10 pounds overnight of fat. You just can't.
It'll be water and it'll be gone.
It'll be gone. You can
terrible.
You can get back to where you were at the price of you feeling really bad for a few days. And not for nothing, while it's passing through your system, enjoy that as well. Let me tell you, do not be the person that goes about a month, gets their whole body all tuned up for keto, and then has a couple of jelly donuts. You will experience a very unique situation.
There will be discomfort.
There will be discomfort. That is a good way of saying it. There will be discomfort for several days.
Yeah.
Bad times. So we feel bad for all of you. We've been there ourselves. Yep. We've all made bad decisions. Scott has a really good blog post up on She Calls Me Hobbit that says it's just one day.
It is. Yeah.
It's such a good article. Scott has a really unique perspective on that sort of thing, and I really encourage you to read it. It's one of the more emotional, manly pieces that I've seen come out of him. I find it to be a very powerful article and something that I'd encourage everybody to read. For myself, when I think about this, I kind of have a saying, which is it's a new day and a fresh start. You got to wake up and shake the Etch-a-Sketch because you can't control what happened yesterday. The time to control yesterday was yesterday. So that's over. All you can do is make a decision right now about what's in front of you and what you're going to do. And be prepared for that ravenous pancake mix out of the box level of hunger as your body reacts to what is essentially an addiction to carbohydrates and sugar. It craves it at a lizard brain level, and you have to work through that. And it's coming. It'll hit you hard, and it hits everybody hard. There's just no way around it, which is one of the reasons why you just want to stay away from that. I do want to mention CKD, cyclic ketogenic diet. This is something that you will see athletes talking about. If you're overweight, this is not for you.
Oh, come on.
I know.
You're showing me pancakes here and pizza, and you say I can't do it.
I mean, The Rock can eat 12 pancakes. Why can't I?
I know.
Clearly it works for him. Look how big his muscles are. I want to be just like The Rock.
Great.
So,
no.
If you are an athlete or you're near ideal weight, you're an endurance long distance runner, you ride 50 miles on your bicycle every Saturday, CKD is a more interesting conversation. If you're trying to lose weight, forget about it. All the things we were talking about will happen to you if you are overweight. But if you're an athlete, there can be advantages from a metabolic science perspective to doing some sort of cycling of carbohydrate loading to refill those glycogen stores and kind of shake the Etch-a-Sketch on energy production and your metabolism. That is not compatible with weight loss. That's all I can say about that.
All right, fine. No 12 pancakes for me.
Yeah, no legendary cheat days for you.
Yeah, I you know what? Even when I was eating carbs, I could not do that. That right there takes some discipline, eating that much in one day.
The double dough pizza. I'd never even heard of that.
I could eat a half a slice of that. I am, even when I was fully sugar fueled, I was a, tiny bites all day person.
All right, moving on. Let's stop talking about brownies.
All right.
Okay.
Chia brownies.
So here we are. This is barbecue season. This is party season. Yay. This is play date season.
Yay.
You're gonna be finding yourself going to people's homes who are not yet enlightened in the true path.
Yeah, you're going to go to your sister's home, and all she's going to have in her cupboards are boxes of cake mix.
Yes.
Not that happened recently.
Oh, we would never want to say that happened to someone on this podcast, because that would be way too personal.
No, just stuck in a house with which wouldn't have happened to me at all at my sister's house.
That's correct. So what can we do to stay on target when we are leaving the house? I think there's really two typical things. You've got the barbecue where, hey, come on over on Saturday. We're having a few friends over and we're going to, grill some chicken or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got, your traditional, summer parties and stuff like that. What can you do to stay on target? What do you do, Karen?
Well, the barbecue season is fairly easy. Usually the host is making meat, and
how would you know that?
Well, I ask.
That's right.
I ask them, what are you serving? What do you want me to bring? Mm-hmm. And usually they're making burgers or chicken, and all I do is ask, with mine, can there be no sugar breading or sauces on it. I'm good with just dry spice. I'm following a low sugar diet. I try not to get into too many details unless they ask.
Okay.
And I bring my sides. There are lots of good websites out there. Scott has his, she calls me Hobbit. He's got a lot of things if you want to bring baked goodies.
It's as if there is a cookbook that might have a number of delicious ketogenic sides available for you to take to a party or a barbecue.
Yeah, he's got your brownies right there, and they're not the oopsie kind. They're the mindful brownies.
There you go, the correct brownies.
The cookies that he has there, the chocolate chip cookies, I have made those. They were fantastic.
No, they are great. There's so many good things in this, the website and in the book. I'm such a big fan of Scott's style of cooking. I think there are a lot of people that keto-fy things in very strange ways that are not tasty. They look really good, but they are not tasty.
Well, if you're on our Keto Plus, there are lots of recipes that people have tried they can recommend. I use Craig's site, ruledme.com.
Yes.
And I've never had an issue with his meals and sides. I was at a party at my mother-in-law's get together, and she was insisting that we have Chinese food, not real Chinese food. This is like the American, covered in flour and deep fried,
cornstarch and noodles,
and then the cornstarch sugar syrup stuff.
Yeah,
and so I it's my mother-in-law, so I was quiet about her type 2
in a very non-judgy, quiet way.
Yeah, and you know what? I told Mark, I'm like, I'm just gonna bring stuff for us to eat, and I made his kung pao chicken and the cauliflower rice, and honestly, it looked so much better than anything they had with the the gelatinous cornstarch goo sauce.
Yeah.
I've brought sides. I've made creamed spinach and loaded cauliflower. Oftentimes, if you're hosting, sometimes you're doing the hosting. You really don't need to explain what you're serving. They are not going to complain if you're serving them barbecued chicken and ribeyes and roasted vegetables and berries and whipped cream. You will hear zero complaints from your guests. They won't even notice that the bread isn't there. Right. So it's one of those things where you need to prepare. So it's just a tiny bit of preparation. Find those websites with chefs that have reliable recipes and that have similar tastes to you, and it'll just be fine. Bring beverages too.
Yeah.
Then you can skip the alcohol.
Yeah, as thinking about going to a barbecue, we went on a 4th of July thing, and what we ended up doing is when we received the invitation, we asked the host what was being served as the main meal, and it was going to be barbecue chicken and then hot dogs for the children. You go, all right, cool. So that you don't have to worry about, because if it's barbecue chicken, the worst you have to do is maybe wipe a little sauce off the top or something, or peel the skin off and chuck it away to the dog or something. Yeah. The sides are where I find problems. And to your
pasta salad.
Yeah, it's just, they're not to be ever trusted, because when you tell people you're ketogenic, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Nope.
I had a friend of mine recently invited me out to lunch. I go, well, I'm kind of ketogenic. We got to go somewhere where it's like low carb and all that stuff. He goes, oh, totally. We show up. There is plenty of gluten-free stuff.
Yeah.
And you go, uh-oh.
Gluten-free usually means high sugar.
That's right. So I had a chicken salad and had to put the breaded chicken on the side because just have a $9 bowl of lettuce. It was fantastic. You just can't trust people. They just have no concept of what it means. And that's where those little refrigerated lunch boxes come in handy. So we brought 2 lunch boxes First one had diet sodas in it. We had the Zevias and the Diet Dr. Peppers that we like to drink because you can't trust that somebody's going to have diet soda, and we want to have our little can of stuff to drink. And then we also brought our own sides. We had some nice sesame oil green beans. We had a nice little thing of like this chicken celery salad with mayonnaise that we make or whatever, and then some kale chips that I had made in the oven earlier that day out of dinosaur kale. So we had our own little crunchy potato chips out of kale. We had our own little salad and everything we needed in order to have a robust looking meal at someone else's house.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, is it does take a little bit of preparation, but it's so much better because if you just do the tiniest little bit of prep, you don't really have to worry about food. You're not thinking about it. You're not interrupting the party with, oh, what's in this? What is that? Does this chicken salad have sugar in it? Just like, no. Give me a piece of chicken, and then I'll go sit down and bust out my little lunchbox. And if somebody wants to ask me why I'm eating out of lunchbox, then that's a conversation piece of, why do I look this good, baby?
Yeah, and that's always what I do. And I'll ask what the main course is, and I'll roll with that. And I always bring 2 sides. So it's usually these things are potluck. So I bring the 2 sides. I bring enough for everybody. If it's cream spinach, sometimes they turn their nose up at it, but
sure.
Or my massaged kale salad. but at least it's there, and it's an option. And as you said, like, I've gotten to the point now where I'm almost 70 pounds down.
Wow.
And people are starting to ask, well, what are you eating?
You mean people have noticed that you've lost 70 pounds, Karen?
Yeah, they're not just giving me the sideways look anymore. They're actually saying, okay, what are you doing?
All right,
what's tell me exactly what you're doing.
We need to know the details.
Exactly.
All right. So that brings us to our last bullet that we're going to talk about today. The booze.
Yes.
Let's talk about booze, especially with all the party season and everything else. Every Thursday, people start asking, they're like, uh-oh, what am I going to drink? Yeah.
What can I drink? How much can I drink? What is acceptable? And if you tell them that there are certain things that you could have a unit or 2 of, it's always, how much? How much of it am I allowed?
All right. So I just want to, we've got our standard "don't trust us" disclaimer, but I really just want to throw this out here. We're not medical scientists here. We're not doctors. We don't know your specific metabolic situation. So I want to disclaim what we're going to talk about in that context, because alcohol and ketogenic diet can be a little bit dangerous, and it can go from being a little bit dangerous to real dangerous real fast.
Yeah.
And I think people sometimes make really bad choices, and then they get boozed up enough to make terrible choices.
Yeah.
And that can be very dangerous. So let's talk about a couple of things. So first off, one does not get plastered when one is eating ketogenically. If you're in ketosis, do not get plastered. You have to trust me on this. There are a lot of very complex metabolic things that start to occur when you drink booze. The trouble you will get into is that you do not have the massive store of glycogen. You do not have stored sugar in your muscles and liver the way other people do. When you start drinking booze, your ability to make ketones turns off. You are a ketogenically powered person who can't make ketones. So you have now pulled the pin out of the grenade. Tick, 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 tick. So the next thing that happens is your liver goes, uh-oh. It's got about 500 calories of what's called hepatic glycogen. So you've got a couple hours, maybe 4 of energy that your liver is just storing for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Well, once you start raining the booze, you have pulled the pin on the metabolic grenade, and you now start squeezing that glycogen out of your liver.
The storm's a brewing.
That's right. When you run out of that glycogen, it's bad. Real bad things can start happening very quickly. You can get into a state called alcoholic ketoacidosis. That is a potentially fatal metabolic condition because your body does not have the ability to make energy when there's alcohol in your system and you do not have enough sugar. So if you have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, I want you to be really honest with yourself. You should not be eating a ketogenic diet. I'm sorry, that's the reality. You're going to die.
Yeah.
It's not a question of when. It's a question of why are you doing this? Because you just can't. I hate to be so direct on that, but there are a lot of people who drink a lot, and the one post that scares the hell out of me is when somebody starts posting. You can tell they are 4.5 sheets to the wind. They go, I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I'm pretty drunk and I'm not feeling good, and it's 9:30 on a Friday night. It's like, oh, here we go. Makes me very uncomfortable. So if you have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, you should not be eating a ketogenic diet. And there are lots of programs to help you manage your way out of this relationship with booze that you have developed. If you are a social drinker and you drink heavy, stop it. You just can't. It's not a choice. I personally don't recommend that you have more than 3 drinks in a night, and I don't recommend that you drink more than 1 drink an hour. If you exceed that, you start playing around with that hand grenade. Don't do that at your own risk. I don't think it's a good idea. It's not respectful to your own body and state of mind. And more importantly, here's what's going to happen. You're going to feel terrible because your body's going to start doing crazy things. You're going to become, you think you know what a hangover is. You do not know what a hangover is until you have tied one on while you are ketogenic. Oh my gosh. So from a safety perspective, if you find yourself in a situation where you have made a series of bad choices involving glasses of booze, the one thing I'm going to recommend that you do, have some carbs. Order the potato skins, eat some potato chips, do something. Get sugar into your body because your body desperately needs that sugar to power itself for the next however long it takes you to burn off however much alcohol you decide to pour down your belly. I don't want to get into, specifically how to calculate that just because it's dumb. Just think about the fact that you have, 3-4 hours of energy in your liver and that's it. So if you do not intake enough sugar to get you through, if you have 12 beers and it's going to take you 12 hours to burn off that much alcohol, you better eat enough potato skins to get you through the next 12 hours. And that's the only way to really prevent yourself from getting into a super sketchy situation. And even then, that's no guarantee. I mean, you're pleading with your body to be effective in mobilizing those sugars into glycogen and glucose stores. But man, it won't always work that way. This is how people end up in the hospital. So please be very careful when you're drinking.
Yeah.
Let's talk about reasonable amounts of booze. If you're going to go for the booze, hard liquor, diet soda mixer.
Yeah.
That is the ketogenic preference. And you want to stick to the liquors that do not have sugar in them because you want to avoid the carbs. I mean, alcohol is a energy source. Make no mistake about it. You drink booze, you're getting 100 calories. Every shot you do, you get 100 calories or whatever it is, 85 or something like that. You're intaking energy. No need to pile on with carbs on top of it by drinking some, super sugary, daiquiri mix or whatever. Yeah, I'm not even sure specifically what it's going to be. Stuff like Fireball and stuff like that have tons of sugar. Anything that tastes sugary sweet is bad. Not stay away from the Drambuie and the Rusty Nails. Stick with
No sex on the beach.
Yeah, no. just go for the vodka and the Diet Sprite, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
If that is unavailable to you for whatever reason, the next tier is a dry wine. You want to go for something that is not sugary sweet. Do not go for the dessert Riesling. You want to go for something that is dry and puckery, because a lot of wines are actually fairly low carb. And there is a company who sells wines that have been tested to have zero carbs and have very low glycemic impact. They actually test them. I think that company is it Dry Farms? What's the name of that place? Do you know, Karen?
I'm not familiar with them.
Dryfarmwines.com. I'm not endorsing them, but they're very, very popular, and they have put money in the pocket of all the popular podcasters. So, it's pretty difficult to not hear them be advertised on Abel's podcast or any of the Primal stuff, because he's in bed with all those guys, which is fine. If you are someone who is a wine drinker, it's something to think about, just because the lab work's been done for you to get the lowest possible carbohydrate. Again, I don't think booze and weight loss really mix on a long-term perspective, but I throw it out there because people are interested. If you're not a wine person, the low-calorie beers are your next choice. You want to stay away from Guinness. That's basically bread in a can. You want to go for something, the Michelob Ultras or whatever. As a Canadian, Karen, are you familiar with the low-carb beers more than I am?
Oh goodness, no, those are terrible.
That's right.
Molson makes one. Molson 67. It's 67 calories.
There you go.
No, that's I picked up this. It was Canada Day, so I said, you know what? I have not had a drink since February. I'm going to get something, and I got just these skinny wine coolers, and I had a couple of those. They were 90 calories each. But I could drink. I wasn't much of a drinker. I didn't drink often, but before I started eating a keto diet, I could easily, drink 6 drinks in a few hours and not really feel too much of it. I wouldn't drive, but I didn't really feel it. And I'm telling you, after 2 of these, and they were only 4% alcohol, this is not like your typical Canadian drink. This was like American beer strength booze. And I had 2 in the space of, I think, 4 hours. And I could feel it after that. And I, at that point, I had the 2. I had planned for the 2. I had already logged them in my Fitness Pal. I was mindfully drinking those 2 coolers.
Sure.
And whatever they're called, wine spritzers. And then after that was enough. I had my dinner, and we went to the fireworks.
So that brings up a really important scientific point, which is due to the lack of glycogen buffering. When you drink booze, it's like snorting it. It goes right in your brain. There is no buffering. It hits you hard and fast.
I could feel it. It was there.
Yeah. If you are someone who in the olden days could drink 4 beers and be okay for the night, you might find that 2 beers makes you a little loopy, because you will drink the beer and then 10 minutes later, your face will be red.
Yep.
It happens very quickly, which, maybe that's what you're going for. I don't know. I'm not sure it does that part of it. But the reason I call that out is, some people may go, well, I can drink 2 beers, and at my weight, there's no problem with my blood alcohol level being whatever it is. Well, blood alcohol level has a much different impact on your mental state when you're ketogenic. So be safe. Don't make bad decisions. If you're ketogenic and drinking, you definitely should not be driving, because you are way drunker than someone who is not ketogenic.
Yeah.
And as with all things that impair your mental state, your ability to judge that in the moment will be terrible compared to making a plan before you go to that party and have 3 beers.
Mm-hmm. So be smart about it.
Yes. I don't want to beat that too much. People are adults. They're going to do what they're going to do. When you drink booze, it turns off your ability to burn fat for 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's going to be about 100, 150 calories of booze coming in. And that gets burned preferentially before anything else. So even if you're like, well, I budgeted my macros or whatever else, as soon as you take that alcohol, your ability to burn fat shuts down for a while. And that's okay. That's not going to kill you.
Nope.
It's a pause in your weight loss journey. It's not a backtrack. You're not going to, unlike eating an oopsie brownie, having a couple of shots of liquor is not going to make you gain 15 pounds overnight.
Mm-hmm.
But it is going to slow you down a little bit. So, just keep a thought about what's important to you in the bigger picture, and is it worth pausing your journey for a night? Since you're not going to be really having a massive undertaking of alcohol, is one shot of booze really going to do that much for you, or change your enjoyment of the party that much? I don't know. I can't judge that for you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, no. It's just it's not worth it. No, it doesn't buy me enough. So I choose to pretty much stay away from it. But everybody's going to make their own choice, and we'll try and support you as best we can. Just be really careful with that. And like I said, if you feel like you have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, the ketogenic diet is not for you. There are ways of eating a low carb diet that are not ketogenic, that are not as spooky scary. And those are things you could look into, such as the primal diet, or the no sugar, no grain stuff that Vinnie Tortorich is doing. You can eat those kind of diets and still drink pretty heavily without putting yourself into spooky situations. It's when you're full on ketosis that heavy booze is bad.
Yeah.
So I hate to take us out on kind of a downer note on that, but alcohol is constantly coming up, especially with parties, especially with all the summer festivities.
And it should be fun stuff. These things should be fun. You want to go there and have a good time. And if you prepare and you don't succumb to these temptations, you're not going to regret it the next day. That fun won't be erased by, a week of, oh, what did I do?
All right. Well, with that, let's start winding it down here, Karen. I do want to talk a little bit about our friend Scott. He wrote a cookbook. It's called Keto-friendly Everything. This is a great little cookbook. It's available on ebook format, and you can get a printed copy, so you have it there in the kitchen. These are the recipes that are up on the website. I mean, let's make no mistake about it. This is not, these aren't new recipes. Scott has given away the farm for free. When you're buying this, you're buying it prepackaged. The whole website is basically wrapped up with a bow on it, either in electronic form or printed form. The reason I dig the printed form is because when you're cooking, you want to be running back and forth to your laptop, getting almond flour all over your keyboard and stuff like that. It's nice to just go, all right, how do I make fathead dough again? Is it 6 ounces or 8 ounces of shredded cheese? I can never remember. And rather than having 97 printouts of websites taped to your refrigerator, you just have one nice little book.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of this cookbook, and it's written by our good friend Scott. So big fan. Check it out. It's available at shecallsmehobbit.com/store. So with that, Karen, I'm going to throw up our disclaimer, and I'll read this in a second, but I want to thank you for hanging out with me tonight and talking about some of these really interesting issues that come up over the summer.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
All right. And we'll catch all you guys next time. Thanks again for tuning into the HobbitCast, and we'll see you. No one in this podcast is a provider of healthcare, and our discussion is based on things we read on the internet. It's not our intent to render medical advice for your unique situation. Only you and your doctor can make decisions regarding your medical treatment, diagnosis, and especially the impact of prescription medication. Always check with your prescribing doctor on the compatibility of your medication before undertaking any change in nutritional approach or fasting protocol. Many medications are known to be incompatible with longer fasting without adjustment. Be safe and don't trust our word for it.